Okay, welcome to the Sunday Roast and Rugby League Radio. We've got Mike Haigh. I think, is it Haigh or Haigh? We need to know this.
It's Haigh. There's a G in there for a reason. Yeah.
There's a what? Hey? Well, we have a place in Wigan called Haigh Hall, which isn't Haigh Hall. Okay, all right. Yeah, so it's Haigh. You were right then, Foster.
I'm good. Probably not as good as you did today, but
good man. Okay, we've got Andrew Foster, another regular.
Hello.
He's been a bit of an independent supporter, I think. We'll find out later who we picked to win and things like that. And we've got Tony Braisby, who's obviously we all feel for Tony today as Castleford's. Only the only person I could get from Castleford to come on the show, actually. So, but it was a long-standing deal. How are you doing? Okay.
Yeah, not too bad. Getting over it.
Okay, right. Well, yesterday was a couple of matches that were fantastic. Very unusually for rugby league. There's been many matches this weekend in the UK. I mean, normally it's sacrosanct to play any other games, but the Challenge Cup final on Challenge Cup weekend. But I think because of COVID, there's a lot been going on. But we're going to focus on two matches: the AB Dex Cup final and the Betfred Challenge Cup. First of all, though, 1895 Cup, which is something that's come up over the last few years, and we have with us the co-creator apparently of the 1895 Cup. So let's have a little chat find out what was happening and how that came about.
All right. So what happened? First of all, hats off to Ralph Rimmer. For once, that is an absolute great shout that doing the cup for the Championship clubs and League One, because the reality is you will probably never see a Championship club at Wembley for the Challenge Cup. But what we realised first year through, and I reckon Michael will agree on this as well, Bradford and Halifax, by doing well in the Challenge Cup, actually were ruled out of contention for the 1895. So Halifax had such a fixture pile up that they ended up having to play. I think they played Sheffield, played them at Cougar Park on a Wednesday night in front of a few hundred people and got beat and got knocked out. So there was this problem with the original setup that actually the 1895 and the Challenge Cup were almost cannibalizing each other. And if they were both going to be successful, then they needed to be combined somehow. So I emailed Carl Hall, who was vice president, and then I ended up in contact with Simon Johnson, and I mapped it out. I sent him a bit of a geeky sort of PDF document as to how I thought that they could do it by basically starting at the semi-finals of the 1895, and the semi-finalists are the four Championship or League One teams who've done the best in the Challenge Cup, and didn't hear much back. And then COVID happened, and then turns out that they decided to basically took the idea and made it better. So they said, right, we'll make it, we'll simplify it. I had this idea of saying, right, the top four teams are the teams who progressed the furthest or who beat the highest placed teams, so a Super League upset will get you in the semis. They're like, that's too complicated. We just make it so there's four Championship or League One teams in the round of 16, and they'll be the ones who automatically go through to the semi-final. And I think you saw yesterday, there was anything up to 5,000 Fev fans at Wembley. There was at least 1,500, maybe 2,000 York fans, and those are two clubs. York haven't been to Wembley for 90 years. Fev haven't been to Wembley since 1983. So yeah, the 1895 Cup, it's a brilliant concept, and I think hopefully we stick with it and get behind it, and it grows and grows.
Superb. I mean, I think it's fantastic that we normally see at Challenge Cup final club fans from across the spectrum of clubs, don't we? Which is a superb thing in itself. But to have something on the day that resonates more with them, even more so, brings more spectators up from different clubs and different leagues, and it just gives people more impetus to go and spend more time there. I mean, what do you think, Mike? Is it like something that the championship is kind of like seems as it feels like it's a good thing and people are going for it?
Yeah, a bit of unusual circumstances in 2019 because no one expected Bradford to beat Leeds and Halifax to beat London to get through to later stages, and obviously we beat Bradford and we only just lost to yourselves in the semi-final, Paul. But yeah, and what Andrew said, we're right. We literally had to play our reserves against Sheffield in that Wednesday night because we couldn't because of fixture pile up that caused by the Challenge Cup. We couldn't do it, and because of that, I think, and also with the fact that there's not much prize money, I don't think, attached to the 95 Cup final. I think it's not necessarily that attractive proposition. The real money's in the league and how high you finish in the league. I don't think York and Fev fans will completely agree with me after yesterday. And I actually said to some of my friends, it's the first time I've been jealous of Fev fans watching yesterday because they got a day out in the sun at Wembley, which unfortunately, being an Halifax fan, I've not tasted I've never tasted myself. But yeah, like we've seen in the last 20 odd years, and the more events rugby league can put on, which includes more fans, the better, really. And I'm sure all of you will agree we had two absolutely cracking matches yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when you looked at, and also you didn't mention it, neither of you mentioned the player from a player's point of view as well as from a supporter's point of view. You know, imagine telling your kids you'd scored at Wembley. That was Kyle Moore, I think, yesterday, wasn't it? Where we will talk about that game later, but I think that's what matters to the players. A lot of that kind of stuff. I scored at Old Trafford. I scored at Wembley. Wow, or I played at Wembley. My dad still tells me now to this day that he played on Knowsley Road pitch in 1941 or whatever it was, 1938. It was something like that when he was 8. So he still tells me all that. So those are the kind of memories that we want to make for the players. And
he's still got that prestige as Wembley as well. Like I was saying, like yesterday, like the grand final's been a brilliant concept that's been introduced, but I grew up dreaming of playing at Wembley, watching Martin Fire scored that try against Leeds, and Wembley has that mystique, and I'm so glad that they made a big deal out of it yesterday. It's our national stadium, not just football national stadium. It's Rugby League's national stadium. And whenever I hear people think, "Oh, we should move the cup final up north and stuff," no, completely disagree. If you get more eyes on from people down south anywhere on Wembley attracts visitors, viewers, whatever. If you moved it up north to a Huddersfield or a Leeds or anywhere like that, it loses its prestige. I know it's not a good thing to kind of look back on, like all grainy black and white footage and stuff, but that's what makes our sport great. We've got that history, and I think it was John Wilkin who said that. We've got that history and the prestige of the event. That young lad for Featherstone who scored 2 tries at Wembley, like you say, Paul, he's going to remember that for the rest of his life.
Absolutely. And the other great thing about the National Stadium is that it is the National Stadium. It's not somebody else's stadium. With all respect to Old Trafford, it's Man United Stadium.
Yeah.
When the cup final was moving around because of building Wembley, whether it was Twickenham or Cardiff or one of the football grounds, it was their stadium. And it just doesn't have the same magic. It doesn't have the same ring as going to Wembley.
Yeah, and Murrayfield, it definitely did not have the same feeling. Cardiff was different because it feels like that's a different day out. The Millennium Stadium at Cardiff is just a very good central-based stadium, and everybody enjoys that stadium. Murrayfield's too far out of the sticks. We don't have anything in the north like that kind of stadium anyway. We've got fantastic stadiums, but they're all tied to a club. A football club, aren't they? Whereas, those national stadiums are brilliant. And like you say, there's no stadium like Wembley in the world. It's been, even now, it's a very different stadium. And the old stadium, I was lucky enough to go quite many times to the old stadium and see Saints win a couple of times there. And fantastic. My dad's been there. And my dad's been there, watched things there. Everybody's got history around that stadium. And to take the young lads, especially the Featherstone and the Yorks and, these kind of clubs that would never dream of being able to get to Wembley, certainly not in the next, the next decade or so. You just obviously you don't know what's going to happen. Any team could get there in the cup, but primarily, this is a great escape for those clubs to get out and see a fantastic day. Yeah, no, I think it's fantastic. Now, the only disappointing part, and I'm going to bring up again, not necessarily about the match, was it on BBC?
It was on the red button.
Yeah, red button.
And the BBC Sport website.
And the BBC Sport website. So that'll be, for me, that's the next step, to try and get it on a channel, free to air, or, somewhere where it can be seen more easily. Because I don't know how many of you struggle with the red button, but I've got TVs that it doesn't even work on. So, yeah. So,
it's kind of like the hourly the coverage. It's preaching to the converted. You're not going to get casual viewers who are just going to, I wonder what's on the red button today. It's all people are going to go looking for it. I'd love to know the viewing figures for the actual final, because that's where it'll show if the appetite for the final BBC is there really.
Well, it was on the Sportsman, wasn't it, as well? We've had I think we've had matches on the Sportsman website over the last few months. We've helped push some of that. But I find it very difficult to push the red button. I don't know how we can kind of, and even BBC Sport try and, it's kind of, why is it just not on BBC Two? It's going to be a cracking game.
It's the same with the early rounds of the Challenge Cup as well. You have to go hunting for it. I mean, I made the effort for West Wales Raiders first round game purely to see how Gavin Edson went on. And to see how our former Man of Steel went on, and they were both disappointing. But you just don't get the same feeling on the red button as you get on a proper channel.
Yeah, and so the game itself, I mean, it was a cracking game. I thought personally, it changed almost at the same time as the second game. The Challenge Cup final, almost at half time, just before half time when. John Davis made that cracking break for Featherstone, and I just thought that was almost like in the second game, as I was saying, there was a turning point midway through the game, and it changed. I don't know what you thought of the actual game itself, the spectacle that was there, because I just thought it was a cracking game. So
I think I was a bit concerned. I mean, a lot of people don't seem to have noticed that York actually having a tough season. They were in London last week, lost by, conceding 50 points to the Broncos last week. So it was pleasing that we got a real proper contest. And for me, the game breaker was York got themselves level and then allowed the kickoff to, they didn't field the kickoff properly. It went dead. They had to drop out. Fev got a penalty off that, kicked it, went back up there again and scored, and suddenly instead of being level, they're 8 points down and chasing the game again. But having seen, you can't really argue with Fev this year. They and Toulouse are seem some way ahead of the rest of the league, and it's probably sort of due recognition for that they ended up with the cup.
Yeah, I thought that Featherstone. I thought if York had hung out to half time, I think it would have been 16-10 at half time, and Featherstone just got that try, which was a cracking try. It looked like he was playing centres, to be honest. But he's in the second row, obviously, John Davis. But it just looked like he was playing centres. It was like, just what is going on here? But he was just made it such a fantastic break, and then instead of 16-10 at half time, with a break and a time to get York getting themselves sorted and settled, it was 22-10 at a break. And I just thought, if you're up against Fair, who were obviously the class team with Toulouse in the championship at the moment, you always.
I think Fev had a bit more experience in the spine in the key positions. Mikey Lewis, I thought, had a fantastic game for York, but he's a bit of a live wire. He's still got something to learn. Whereas Fev had Craig Hall, fair enough, he had a couple of errors, but Hall, Brown, and John Davis, they've got tons of experience, and they knew what to do in certain times of the game. Whereas York do have experience, but not necessarily in those key positions. Really, I think that was the main difference because York scored a lot more points. I thought it was a lot closer than I say we're going to be, but it all added up to a brilliant game because you didn't necessarily know which way it were going to go. No. But Fev just had that little extra class when needed, really.
Oh, there was one thing that's got to be one of the best interception tries ever scored at Wembley.
Yeah.
I always love those rather than just streaking away and he's scored before he's even got over the halfway line, where he's being reeled back, but just had enough to shake off the tackler and under the post. So yeah, that is York have got big ambitions, and now they've got some stuff for the highlight reel, haven't they? Even if they didn't pick up the trophy, they've put a bit of a marker down, and that that's what we want for all our clubs.
So we're happy with the format, I guess. So we're happy with the run-ins and everything. I guess Mike mentioned that there's kind of like sorry, that was Andrew who mentioned there was kind of like the way they'd formatted it wasn't quite the way that.
Well, that'd be the interesting thing, Paul, is whether they stick with. So they did that because of COVID, basically. And then the question is, will they stick with it next year, or will they go back to the 1895 being its own competition with its own early rounds? And I obviously I'm a big supporter of combining the two, and that gives that means so when Bradford lost to Featherstone in the Challenge Cup, that also eliminated us from Wembley, which obviously is sad for me as a Bradford fan, but it gives the game more meaning. If that was just a Challenge Cup match, then to be honest, it's the chances are that had we beaten Fev, then we would have been away at Wigan or Warrington and getting a thumping. There won't be much reward for it. So I'm big advocate that they stick to this format and keep the Challenge Cup and the 1895 combined.
Yeah, I think it's superb. I mean, it's anything that gets more fans to Wembley for me. Is a good thing. I think it will. I think it'll bring every year. The only downside would be is if the top teams in the championship struggle to get up, the drawbridge kind of gets pulled a bit. We might end up with the same teams going every year, which would be, the same few teams. But that's going to happen, I think, anyway. We talked about that last week, where I was saying that it's a shame that some teams, especially we were talking about the women's game, where some teams pick all the best players, but that happens in every league, doesn't it?
Yeah,
of course it does. You look at grand finals. There's only the 4 teams that have won the grand final, haven't they?
Yeah.
So it's.
Also, I covered a lot of cup finals in the 90s, and there seemed to be one team in particular that was spending a lot of time there.
Yeah, no, you're right.
That's very true.
Yeah,
Swinton were very close to getting through, Paul. Like they weren't far. It's quite an open. It's been quite an open competition, really, so far. The 1895.
Yeah, I noticed that a lot of the games in the lead up. I was doing a bit of research today. I obviously had watched quite a few of the games because they've been on Sportsman and stuff, but. Yeah. I went back and I thought I'd look at the whole competition from top to bottom, and the scores were really close. Not obviously in the first round or whatever they were a bit all over the place. But,
we got stuffed,
yeah. But the last couple of rounds have been really close, and there wasn't. I was thinking to myself, is it been a bit of an easy ride for Featherstone to get there in York? But it hasn't at all. No. There's been loads of opportunities for any team to get there, and that's what we want.
Yeah,
that's what the future holds. So doesn't rule out them going into the Challenge Cup pot, though, does it? The 1895, they still can go into the Challenge Cup.
Yeah. Hypothetically, there'd be a problem. So if Featherstone got Hull and were pretty comprehensively beaten by Hull. So technically, if they'd beaten Hull, then they would have they would have gone on to the next round of the Challenge Cup, and that hypothetically you could have a team get to the final of the Challenge Cup and the 1895. But given that we've never so we've had quite a few championship teams in the semis, and Halifax probably got as close. That was as competitive a semi-final with a championship team in it as there's been, and it still was like 26-0. So So yeah, I think
We
cross that.
didn't get
Worry
nilled.
about that when it happens, really.
We didn't get nilled. Stop disparaging us, Dan.
Oh, sorry, 26-6. Sorry.
Two. We got a penalty goal.
Oh, was it two? I thought
we were getting nilled that day. We got a drop goal.
Yeah, I was thinking more of the fact that it might be difficult for things, not necessarily for a final, but if they don't get the games in the right places, the semi-finals and quarter-finals, which, the likes of Featherstone or Halifax or Toulouse could end up in a Challenge Cup semi-final. And also, so that's what I'm thinking. They need to kind of just consider the chances of getting any of those teams or even a bottom team in Super League getting to the Challenge Cup final is pretty low, but, there's still got to be that administration sorted out.
Well, hopefully less compressed fixtures in 22 and 23.
Yeah, you hope.
Be a good start. Yeah, okay.
Because you could add to the wider question about the final actually being in July rather than August bank holiday like it previously was. Because again, I think in 2019, I think we had to play 4 games in 10 days or something daft because of the way the fixtures. And because previously the semi-final was that like mid-June or something, and then it was ages until the final. Whereas it's been quite condensed this year, which has kept the attention on the cup really well. But there's a lot of things to think about. But if asking me as a championship fan, I agree with Andrew. I think the way that they've done the 1895 Cup this year has been really good because, as you say, Paul, it gives the teams an extra thing to play for rather than just extra round in the cup. They've got more chance of getting to Wembley. Full stop if they win those games there, and also the teams that are knocked out, they've still got a league to play for maybe. But I don't know. There's lots of stuff to review in there.
Here's an hand grenade for you. How about if we do go to licensing on a 3 or 4 year cycle, as well as awarding points for winning, the league leaders and the playoff, the grand final for the championship, you also award points for winning the 1895. So, in effect, if you are chasing Super League, then it heightens the stakes and makes the 1895 and also, the early, if it stays combined, the early rounds of the Challenge Cup more meaningful for teams outside Super League.
It's not too dissimilar to before because winning the Northern Rail Cup was a tick in the box. For Super League before, so it's not that different, really. Yeah, to be honest, I still think a Northern. It's good that the Championship has got that 1895 Cup there and there's prestige at Wembley. But I think as a competition, I think the Northern Rail Cup works because rather than having stupid pre-season friendly against Super League under 23 sides, you have competitive fixtures from the get-go.
That's interesting,
and
yeah.
I thought that worked really well, but there's no perfect solution, is there?
No, well, we tried. Do you remember Andrew Chalmers' fake Yorkshire Cup that he introduced?
Yes.
It's like something from wrestling where like $1 Million Man turns up with his own belt. It's like, oh, we're competing for this. But yeah, it's good. A bit of silverware for the Bulls. It'd been a while otherwise. But yeah, no, I'm very happy with 1895 as it's going.
It's good. We like it. So on to the bigger game.
Yeah.
So the Challenge Cup final. I mean, even people I know who don't even watch Rugby League watch the Challenge Cup final. It's, as you mentioned before, the whole Wembley thing and the National Stadium and Rugby League getting on BBC prime time on a Sunday afternoon, should I say? Saturday afternoon normally. A Saturday afternoon, should I say? It's kind of like a difficult time though, really, because it's quite, middle of July. We've all been a bit stuck in, and it was a hot day yesterday. It'd be interesting to see the viewing figures. But it was everything else worked well. Good game. 45,000. I'm not sure there was 45,000 in the stadium. I don't know how they work it out and all the rest of it. Everybody seemed to go and have a good time. It was a good game, turning points in the middle. But who went? Let's have a see. I didn't go. I couldn't go.
Was it just me?
So just Andrew. Okay, excellent. Good work. Yeah. No, I couldn't go, unfortunately. Normally would have gone, but just I had the lads, so I couldn't do anything. So how was the atmosphere, first of all, in the stadium?
Really good. I think it's interesting. So COVID to me seems to, because everyone's used to empty stadiums and then limited capacity stadia, rather than people being like looking around going, oh, you know, it's a shame it's not full. I think people just were just glad to be there, happy to be there, great atmosphere with the, you know, so on the walk up, and, you know, beautiful sunshine. Everyone just seemed really cheery and happy. It seemed like most of the York and Fev fans stayed for the main game, and yeah, I think the only, like reality is, Saints are a very good team, and they just sort of throttled the life out of the game in the second half. It was really building to a, you know, I think an all-time classic, because Cass were the underdogs, but were really, you know, were really good in that first half. I guess what it, you know, 1996 is known as a 1996 and 1985 are two of the sort of absolute classics, aren't they? And on both occasions, the losing teams had a bit of a last hurrah before they went, you know. So Robbie Paul got his hat trick to bring Bradford back within 2 points. I was only 4 for 85, but I seem to remember, you know, the Ray French commentary. You know, here all FC are showing us. You know, it looked like they were going to make an unprecedented comeback, but didn't quite make it. So that was the only thing that you know, like, Cass were very valiant, but it sort of there wasn't much jeopardy. Saints looked very much the likely winners from pretty much coming back level, I'd have said, and that was, but everyone had a really good, you know, I think everyone enjoyed it. Everyone had a good day out, and hopefully it's the start of you know, a sort of a bit of a fresh start for the Challenge Cup, and bigger and better things.
Well, I kind of disagree with some of that.
Go on.
Because I was on the edge of my seat till, you know, 10 minutes before the end, 5 minutes.
Really?
It was only when it was. In fact, you know,
I thought.
Go on.
I thought it was a classic cup final.
Yeah.
I thought it was, but probably more for the purists. I think the first half was gripping if you were neutral, but I think the second half, once Saints got away, well, I think they learned the lesson from when they played Warrington 2 years ago, and they kind of closed the game out. It was more like chess, and Roby and Coote managed the game superbly. But yeah, I thought it was an absolutely brilliant game. I thought it's best one for a while.
Yeah, I thought it was good to the end. Like, you know, I was going to say then that I was obviously doing the Saints Heritage website. I was thinking, at what point should I update the site to have the trophy on the front page? And it was only like when Amor went over, when the try was given, not even when he went over, because I was a bit unsure, but it was only when the try was given that I updated the website. So that shows that was that only at that point that I thought we've done it here.
Maybe I'm traumatized by all those cup final defeats to Saints, and just that sense of inevitability that perhaps weren't warranted. Now you say that, you know, to be fair, there was that set of 6, wasn't there, that Cass had, and it didn't really come to anything. I'm trying to think how they got it. Did they pinch the ball? I think McShane 1-on-1.
Yeah.
That was the chance, and that's where. Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it was a 3 out of 10. I was just saying that that it what it needed there was a Cass try, and then all square or within 2 points, whatever it would have been, and game on. But yeah, no, it was it was fun, you know, really enjoyable day. The lads that I think one thing was I had to do some legwork to get a gang of us going out, because I think people are out the habit of even considering getting tickets for stuff, and so it needs more pushing and prodding and nagging. But once they got themselves there, they had a great time, and they were saying, right, when's the next thing that we can go to?
So it was 12-6 at half time, Tony. What did you think at half time?
I thought the first 15 minutes was obviously incredibly tight. Saints really pushing. Well, once you scored, you could go either of two ways. Either would get steamrolled, which has happened before on far too many occasions, or we'd change and start throwing it out wide and opening the game, which we did up until the 40th minute. And I mean, second half, we just couldn't. Cass just couldn't get a running, a good attacking momentum going. There were chances, like when McShane stripped the ball.
Yeah.
But then when we came to the end of the set, we just didn't look like we were going to score again. And the first two tries were pretty neat work from Matautia and on the second kick. They were pretty neat work. There was stuff there. If we could have got back to that, the second half could have been as exciting as the first half. But Saints were impressive. There's no doubt about that.
So I thought, I mean, obviously, as I mentioned earlier, the turning point in the first game was the John Davis try. John Davis break for Fev, which it was almost on the 40-minute mark, 38 minutes, I think it was. And just into the second half of the Challenge Cup final, it was obviously there was a kick went up, controversy pursued. All this.
Oh yeah.
So
never seen that in a Saints final before, have we?
So talking through that particular, because that was a turning point for me. That match, the final was the Roby try. I think it was James Roby who scored that try in the end, because there's so little talk about who scored that try. It was all about the combination of what was going on. So the kick went up, and then it looked like it was knocked forward by Wellesby, I think, off the top of my head.
Percival, I think.
Percival was it? Yeah. Sorry, yeah. That's. I was just like looking at it, thinking, "My God, what's going on? This is going to be a knock on, or is Grace is out in touch? He's off the field of play. He's got his foot in." What do people think about the rules for that? Was it of all? Was it a knock on?
I wasn't sure about the knock on.
No.
Well, I thought the ball initially hit the line until we saw the replays, and fair enough, it didn't. But I still don't understand. You can have 1 foot out or 1 foot in, but you're not out. But you're not in touch if you lift your outside foot first. I just don't understand that ruling.
No, I had massive arguments. I went to mum and dad's, and my dad's a all qualified referee. He's involved in the game and that sort of thing. And me and him had a blazing row about the rule and stuff, because I'm sure I've played games myself and also watched games on telly where if you jump from out of the pit, even if you've got 1 foot in touch and you jump from out, you're out of play. But it just seems daft, because if you're holding the ball and you put 1 foot out, you're out. And it was far too confusing, really. I didn't think it was a knock on whatsoever. I thought that was all right. And I agree with you, TB. When I first saw it, I thought the ball bounced out, but the replay showed it wasn't. It was a bit of a mess. And from that stage, you're absolutely right, Paul. Cass lost their heads. Cass completely lost the composure, because I saw them running up to the referee saying also, and even afterwards they were pointing at the screen, and they just completely lost all composure after that. So, yeah.
I was in the grounds. I was saying, look, like no try, no, like no way is that a try, no way. And then just as literally obviously we didn't have the commentary that you have on the telly of the referee talking, the video ref. Who was the video ref, by the way?
Chris Kendall.
He was talking it through, and to be fair, I get why it's given. I agree that, especially now that things are decided frame by frame. As far as I can see, the argument is Regan Grace, had he jumped and his right foot had gone up first, and then his left foot, which was the in touch one, then it would have been in touch, even though he ended up landing in the field of play. Because his left foot left the ground off the field of play, and his right foot was actually in. From that moment, he's in the field of play, and then he leaves the ground totally, and so it's all on. The thing is, with it being Regan Grace, he has got a track record of really using every millimetre of ground that there is out on that wing to the absolute utmost. So I wouldn't, with a lot of people, you'd say, "Oh, what a stroke of luck," but that is a guy who's made a science of doing things like that. I've been really struck all season by how he can be. You haven't seen him in the game much, and then the ball goes over to his wing, and it can be a horrible pass on his toes, or it can be a really nasty kick, or a ball coming with 3 defenders at the same time, and he just cleans it up and does something excellent with it. And so looking at it again, I think it's another piece of class play by him, and that helps get his team over the line in the final reckoning.
I mean, I think the key thing is it's not so much the fact that Saints scored, is that how Cass reacted to it and that incident.
Yeah,
and we just lost the game there.
Yeah, and a team perhaps. Sorry, Mike, go on.
I was saying that whenever contentious issues like that happen, I go straight on Twitter to find out kind of what people are thinking. And Jackson Hastings was tweeting at the time, and he didn't know the rules. He didn't think the try were given because of that. And when you've got and then after the game, you had the whole studio completely disagreeing with each other about the ruling. When you've got 3 oldish players who have said different things, and then a current player who's tweeting saying one thing, it shows that it needs clearing up some way somehow. But I don't know. But one thing for sure is Regan Grace knew exactly what he was doing.
Absolutely, yeah. So we do have a ruling. I mean, we do have the ruling that the referee sent it up as a try. So that means that the video ref has to then find something to stop it being a try.
I don't know.
If everybody's divided over, even the video ref was probably thinking, now, what's the rules there with Regan Grace? He was probably, got me looking through his rule. I'm running out of time. I've got to make a decision here. So, we're all at sea, I think, and the whole point is that you've got to find some reason. Not just a. We're not sure, so I'm not going to give the try. It had already been given as a try. It's got to find a reason to stop it, and that's the division gone. I think that was why
I just don't like the whole sending it up as a try. I think what before worked perfectly. If the referee knows what's happening, he should give the decision that he thinks. If he's unsure, then he gives everything to the video ref, who's got the capability to either award a try or not award a try. And I just don't like that at all.
Well, my memory is that when the video ref was first introduced, it wasn't the video ref's job to award or not award a try. It was basically, the presumption was there's a try unless it's obvious, unless there's a reason not to. Or is my memory at fault?
Yeah, I think he went back to the ref, didn't it? And he just said that looks like a try, and the ref gave the try. I'm not sure because it's on the screen, isn't it?
Modern, not to, sort of go back to old traumas, but like the Withers knock on in '99.
I knew you were going to say that.
It would probably, like nowadays, like, is there conclusive evidence, proof that would probably get, say it's not enough evidence to overrule the try. Presuming that, I can't remember who it was. I think maybe it was Cummins on the pitch, and Campbell in the box. Campbell, who then later went on to be famous thanks to Mick Morgan. But
again, it's like that whole try could have been different if it had sent it up as no try.
Yeah,
would it have been conclusive proof to show that Withers touched it? And if he sent it up as a try, would it be conclusive to say that he's knocked it on?
I think one thing is we are dealing with very sort of fine margins. I think it's good that now rugby league is played in such a way that these little tiny fractional things make a big difference, and so it's just in a way it's an occupational hazard. It's what we have to put up with. What's really funny is when you watch stuff from like 91 and what have you, when it was Robin Whitfield, and when they just used to just go straight away with the trigger finger, like point, try. Won't even look at the touch judge. You're like, that's a try. So I think as much as we're talking about how things are now, it's a lot better than it used to be.
Yeah.
Well,
the other thing I will say is that in terms of the TV spectacle, the BBC having actually the video ref wired up for sound, so you get his thinking as he's going through the footage, rather than some Sky employees sitting in a box talking among themselves of what they think is a vast improvement.
Definitely. I just think the 1895 Cup, this is all kind of got forgotten because Fev won in the end quite convincingly. But that York try, that Chris Browning try, where there wasn't a video ref, and Hicks had to give a decision along with his in-goal judge. And I personally, I thought it was a try because I thought he kept some sort of finger, arm, elbow on the ball. But having all the gear there, at Wembley, all the cameras there, no video ref for a final like that, I just thought were bonkers.
Well, it needs to step up. I think that we talked about that before. And if it was on a TV channel, there would have to be a video ref. I think of such a game, but I think it's on the red button, so we won't provide video ref. It's like, but having watched the Euros with the VAR, okay, our video. I always thought our video ref situation was pretty average, but watching the VAR in football, and it just seems just all over the place. Sometimes they go, sometimes they don't. At least in rugby league, it has settled down a lot, and it does seem to work. I'm not sure everybody's on board with it still.
No,
and whether it's useful or not, overall is irrelevant, really, isn't it? Because we don't use it at every game, so that's the problem. Because we only use it at some games. It can influence certain games, but of course, other games aren't influenced at all by it because it isn't even there. So So one of the other things that came up at the Challenge Cup that was a bit different was that a player of the opposite team won the Lance Todd. Now, from my memory, I'm thinking about this. I think you mentioned him before. Robbie Hunter Paul.
Gary Connolly, I think.
Gary Connolly against us, and also Sinfields, actually. That famous, you'd sort of think of that final at Cardiff, John Keir, you think about Paul Cook, but oddly enough, Sinfield won that Lance Todd.
So Niall Evans won it this time. No, I like him as a player. I think he's an excellent player, and he's obviously been around quite a few clubs now. But I thought there was a lot of players who played a big part in that game, the Challenge Cup. It was hard to pick somebody out as an outstanding player. So they I think it's still the press that picks the
press broadcasters. So.
No, I've been in that situation. Where I've picked a player at the grand final of been part of the press at the grand final, and it does become a little bit of a who's he picked? Oh, he's picked that. Oh, what's the word on the street? It does become a bit of like that, and I wondered whether they'd done that. He was obviously worth it, in my opinion. What do people think about opposition teams, losing teams winning the man of the match?
Well,
go on, TB.
I think two things. Well, I'm curious as to whether it's still the voting closes a good 10 minutes before the game ends.
Yes, that's right.
Oh, yeah.
In which case, you can see. But I think the key thing was that Saints was much more of a team performance, and there was less individual players standing out. Whereas particularly in the second half, Evans really came into his own and was looking class in a fairly defeated Cas team.
Yeah,
I've no issue.
He stood out.
Yeah. I thought he won that match, and it's the man of the match. It's not the man of the winning team.
Absolutely,
it's the man of the match. And I thought Koo, again, it's just stuff where it's 10 minutes to go, because I thought Koo bossed that game in the last 10 minutes, and I thought he only got 5 votes. Did Koo?
Yeah,
I think Evans was first, and then Roby was second, which I thought Roby had a fairly average game for the first 50 or so minutes until that try, and then his experience came to the fore, really. But yeah, I can't complain about Evans at all.
I wonder if we look at, there's been complaints about Man of Steel, and whether being a sort of spine player in a so-so team is actually an advantage. You pick up more points So no disrespect to Jordan Abdul, but he's doing really, he's doing really well. And Caesar before him, being the sort of linchpin of a mid-table team seems a better bet than being the, like the best player, but in a team that's sort of firing on all cylinders. And I just think, well, I mean, it's always going to be a subjective thing, try to give individual awards in a team game, but they should try and, look and see, well, what are the biases that are emerging? Are we distributing these awards? Are they all going to the same positions? And if so, how can we just sort of push a little bit against that, and then that way it makes the awards more rigorous and more prestigious as a result as well.
I can't see why they can't do the voting after the game. I know journalists may well be quite focused on getting the end of match reports and all that sort of stuff, but it doesn't take them 2 seconds to look up, right, who's your man at match? Right, okay, right, because there was an age before, after the game until the actual presentation of it. Why they have to do it 10 minutes before the game and and it could be a clutch moment. If you hear your name over the tannoy saying you're the Lonstud Trophy, it could throw you off possibly. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that would be good actually. That would be a thing that would help keep people sticking about. Would be you actually announce the man of the match for the first time at the, like actually when the podium's there, and you get whoever it is up, and that would be a nice moment, wouldn't it? All the players can actually stop and listen, and then whoever wins, up they go. That'd be great. I'd really like that.
Yeah,
great stuff. Okay, so we've done that to the end of the show, I think. A couple of great games there from yesterday, and 1895 Cup, I think we all agree, has got to carry on and has got to be expanded into a better format for TV. Not necessarily expanded club-wise, but expanded properly onto TV with, proper video refs, everything that we should be given.
Interesting.
What is essentially a cup final.
There was actually a bit of discussion as to whether some of the top amateur teams would like to have a tilt at it.
Prefer than the Challenge Cup, maybe.
Well, yeah, that they would, potentially, so Thatto Heath had a good run a few years ago.
Yeah.
So as, it just depends, there's a lot of amateur sports people who hone their craft to a very high level. And as that gets more and more, you might get some of those teams actually going on a bit of a run. I don't know. Might be interesting down the line.
Well, I think it's fantastic. So it's guaranteed to be shelved in a couple of years' time.
It'll go the way of the plate.
So, well, thanks very much for tuning in to Rugby League Radio. This is the Sunday roast show that we're going to be bringing to you every few weeks. And hopefully we're going to have some more cracking matches to talk about in a few weeks' time. So thanks to all the people on the show today, to Andrew, to Mike, to Tony, and myself, Paul, and we'll see you soon. Take care.
See ya.